This is the Strong is a Mindset podcast, episode number 147. If you're succeeding everywhere in your life except taking care of yourself, let's talk about it. This is the Strong is a Mindset podcast, where you'll learn how to build both a strong body and a strong mind by eating, moving, and thinking. I'm your host, physician, personal trainer, certified health coach, and certified life coach, Carrie Holland. Hey, how are you? What's new? What's good? So, what's good here? We are going to talk about a struggle that is so common among the women I work with. I've been wrestling with this one for a while, and I think it's a good time to pull it out into the open. I see it in my clients, I see it in my friends, I've seen it in myself, and it's pervasive. So I'll start by asking you a question. Consider this, okay? Have you ever reflected on where you are right now and decided that on all accounts, you're doing pretty awesome? Meaning you're doing big things. You've got a career that demands a lot of you. You're respected. People count on you and you deliver. And beyond what you do at work, you're also managing your home. You're handling chores, groceries, laundry, bills. You get the permission slip signed and the dentist appointment scheduled. You're keeping little humans or teenagers or elderly parents or pets. You're keeping them all fed, alive, and where they're supposed to be. You send the birthday cards. You pick up the slack when someone is sick. You are the default for everything, and you get it done. And despite all of that, despite being someone who, by all objective measures, is successful, you might still be wondering to yourself, why can't I just get my eating together? Why can't I just be consistent with my workouts? Why do I feel like I'm failing at something that seems so basic and so simple? And that is where we're going today. This comes up so often. And when I dive into this with the women I work with, it's often fraught with tons of guilt and self-judgment. You feel like you've got so much of your life together, but when it comes to taking care of yourself, it's not so together. And even though you might be winning at so many other parts of your life, this can make you feel like you're failing because your habits are just not coming together. And so here is what I want to offer you. You are not lazy. You are not undisciplined. You are not lacking willpower. Most likely, you are burnt out. And that is a completely different thing. And so here's what we're going to dive into. This episode is meant to challenge the story you might be telling yourself about what you perceive as a lack of motivation. We are going to unravel that. And then we're going to talk about why, for some of you, self-care feels like more of a burden than a gift. We'll talk about why you can crush your deadlines and be a top performer and have the best outcomes and the highest evaluations, but still struggle with planning dinner. And we'll also talk about how you can stop expecting yourself to show up like a machine and instead show up like the human that you really are. All right, so let's go. So first, let's talk about what's really going on here. I want to point out the paradox that we are dealing with because it is just that common, and I want to put a big, bright spotlight on it. So if you're listening to this, you're likely a high performer, period end. You know how to get things done. You've done the work, gotten the degrees, climbed the ladder, and earned the successes and the titles. You are the person people come to when they need answers or when they need something done right the first time, or when there's chaos and a fire to put out. You do not drop balls, you do not miss deadlines, and you keep the machine running. And maybe part of your success stems from your ability to operate under pressure. You are efficient, you're productive, and you're capable. And that might be to your own detriment. Maybe you are so good at being the go-to person that no one even thinks to stop and ask if you're okay. Because from the outside, it looks like you've got it all together. You are the picture of competence. And people may even say it to you. Maybe they ask, how do you do it all? And maybe you smile or shrug it off or laugh and say something self-deprecating like it's no big deal. But inside, you might be thinking, I don't know how I'm doing it either because I'm kind of not. And because here's the paradox. You are killing it in most every area of your life. But when it comes to taking care of you, you might feel like you're failing, like you're a mess. Maybe you skip meals or grab whatever is convenient. Maybe you negotiate constantly with yourself about getting back to working out, and the answer is always next week. Maybe you end your super busy days with chips and wine and chocolate, followed by a tremendous load of guilt. And the thing is, it's not for lack of knowledge. It's not for lack of understanding. You know what you're supposed to do, but it seems like an insurmountable task to make your habits stick. So then you might start asking yourself, why? Why can I lead this team, manage a patient panel, handle this classroom, build a business, run a household? Why can I do all these things, but I can't get it together to eat a salad or move my body consistently? What is wrong with me? And I say this because these are the questions that my clients have asked me during their own coaching sessions. So let me stop you right there. Nothing is wrong with you, okay? Nothing is wrong with you. You do not have a character flaw. You do not have a motivation issue. No, This is a capacity issue. This is a burnout issue. And often the real kicker here is that because you're used to being so high functioning, even when you're totally exhausted, you may not recognize that you're running on empty because empty has become your normal. You've been tired for so long that it just feels like part of the job. You don't know anything different. You wake up feeling already behind, only to crash at night and call it rest when really you could sleep for days. You move through the day half present, running at a state of low-key irritable, emotionally flat, and somehow still productive. Or was that just me? Because that was most definitely me. And I thought this was all there is. I thought that was normal. And maybe you've had the same thoughts. Maybe you assume that this is just what it means to be a grown-up, that this is what it means to be a professional, a working woman who gets stuff done. And maybe you tell yourself, this is just a rough patch. It's just a busy season. And shortly after that, all the negotiations start. Once things calm down, or once this project is done, or once the kids go back to school. Or if it's not negotiations, it's tearing yourself up with things like, I just need to be more disciplined, or I have to try harder. And you assume that you are the problem, that if you could just try harder, plan better, wake up earlier, be more consistent, then it would all fall into place. And so then what do? Well, you do what all high achievers have been trained to do. You push harder. You make a new plan. You download an app. You create a spreadsheet. You time block a calendar that accounts for every waking moment of your day. And you go all in and tell yourself, this time I'm really doing it. And it makes sense. That strategy at first glance seems like it should work. It should work because it's worked for you in every other arena of your life, your career, your school, and in other situations where sheer willpower and laser focus got the job done. But here is the thing you need to know. This isn't a project. You are not a project. Your body, your energy, your wellness, your sense of self-worth, these are not systems to be optimized, okay? You cannot outschedule your way out of burnout. You cannot time block your way into peace. You cannot shame yourself into consistency. And you cannot hustle your way to wellness. And that's because burnout does not care how productive you are. Your nervous system does not give a hoot about how many things you've checked off your to-do list. And your body does not respond to pressure. Your body responds to care and kindness, not pushing harder. And that is the paradox. So many of you are trying to apply the same tools that got you success in one domain, work, achievement, external validation. You're trying to apply those tools to a completely different problem, the problem of making space for yourself in your very busy, very overscheduled life. But this problem does not get solved by pushing harder. It gets solved by allowing more space. It gets solved by building safety. It gets solved by giving yourself permission to do less, rest more, and be a human being instead of being a machine. And so this is where everything starts to shift. Things start to shift when you're willing to admit not that you're doing it wrong, but that doing it this way no longer works. Okay, so let me slow down for just a second. Sometimes I can feel myself speeding up when I talk about this, and I talk fast at baseline. So let me slow down and bring us back for a second. If you are nodding your head or you know in your soul exactly what I'm talking about, please pay attention to that because your reaction matters. So let me restate that you are not broken and you are not weak. You are exhausted, not just physically, but maybe even emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. So let's talk about that. Let's name it and normalize it and unpack it because this is burnout. And once you understand what burnout really is, you can stop trying to fix yourself and actually start taking care of yourself. And so please know that burnout is not just being tired. Tired is solved with a nap. This is not something you just bounce back from after one good night of sleep or a weekend off. This is way beyond that. Burnout is chronic. It's emotional, it's physical, it's mental, and it doesn't just show up overnight. It builds slowly over time from living in a constant state of motion for days, months, or even years. Burnout is the exhaustion that comes from performing wellness instead of living it. It's the price that you pay for always being on. It's what happens when you have no buffer, no space, no room to breathe. And it's not just that your calendar is full, it's that your brain is also full. And over time, your heart starts to feel heavy and your nervous system gets fried. And burnout is also decision fatigue. So not just for big decisions, like what do you do with your career or what sports your kids should play, but also for the little decisions, like what's for dinner? Did I actually hit send on that email? Do I have time to work out today? Should I skip lunch or eat the protein bar in my bag? Do I go to bed or do I unload the dishwasher? So burnout is carrying the weight of everyone else's needs and then expecting yourself to show up like it's fine, like it's no big deal. It's the invisible mental load of being the one who looks like she's always got her act together. It's the weight of being the default parent, the reliable colleague, the responsible one, the person who remembers everything. And sometimes the hardest part of burnout is you don't always know it because you're still functioning. You're still getting things done. You're still showing up. You've gotten so good at powering through that you have no idea what it feels like not to. And so you white knuckle your way through the weeks. You drink more coffee. You tell yourself to suck it up. You push through because that's what you've always done. And that's what's always worked. But here's what I need you to hear. Burnout is your body saying, I can't do this anymore. It's your mind saying, I need a break. It's your soul telling you there has got to be another way. So if you've been wondering why you are struggling to follow through on the things you say you want, like exercise, eating healthy, or better sleep, this might be why. It's not a motivation problem. It's not a discipline problem. It's a burnout problem. And that changes everything. Again, let me take a pause here. If you're nodding your head or if you're feeling called out, good. And no, not because I want you to feel exposed or in trouble, but because now we can do something with it. And here's what I want you to hear. Please stop beating yourself up. I'm asking you to stop treating your struggle to get it together as some kind of personal failure, because it's not. You're not failing. You're functioning in a system that is taking too much and giving too little, and you've been doing it on fumes for far too long. So it makes total sense that you're craving comfort food at 9 p.m. It makes total sense that you're skipping your workouts. It makes total sense that you want to crawl into bed and not talk to another human. That is not a character flaw. It's a sign of depletion. So what do you do with that? You stop the shame spiral. You stop treating burnout like laziness. You stop waiting to feel motivated before you take care of yourself. And instead, you start from exactly where you are. You get honest about what you actually have the capacity for, not what you should be doing. Because here's what I think I know. You want to feel better. You want to take care of yourself by eating and moving. You want to follow through, not just because of the results, but because of the self-trust that comes from keeping promises to yourself. So let's give you a way to start that does not require overhauling your life or faking it with energy that you just don't have. And you do that by lowering the bar on purpose. Yep, I said it. And I know for high achievers, that sounds like straight up failure. But before you cringe, let me explain to you what that looks like. So instead of asking yourself, how do I fix everything? Instead, you're going to ask, what is one small thing I can do to take care of myself today? Do you see that? We talk a lot about small changes here on the podcast, and this is just another place where this concept applies. Find the smallest thing you can do to take care of yourself today. And you're not doing this from a place of guilt. You're not doing this because you have to. You're doing this because you deserve to feel good. You deserve support, even if that support is coming from you. So when you ask that question, maybe your small thing today is a 5-minute stretch. Maybe it's adding some protein to your lunch. Maybe it's drinking a glass of water first thing in the morning instead of opening your inbox. None of these are big or wild or time-consuming, and that's exactly the point. They're small, they're gentle, they are low effort, but they're also high return. And what I want to point out is a key feature of working through burnout. The way out of burnout is not through pressure, it's through permission. So there's no should and have tos and musts. No, instead, you have to give yourself permission to start where you are. You have to give yourself permission to do less. You have to give yourself permission to let small be enough. And this is a big one. The win here is in doing less and letting that be enough. And that is not an easy thing for my high-achieving perfectionist to accept, but it's essential. And that shift is where everything changes. You let what you do be enough. Recovering from burnout does not come from doing more. It comes from slowing down, showing up gently without enormous pressure on yourself, and by rebuilding trust with yourself through small, doable actions. So please hear me. Lowering the bar is not giving up. It's redefining your success in a way that actually works for you. And that is where the momentum comes from. All right, so now let's take this one step further because yes, we know that lowering the bar helps. Small actions add up and they absolutely make a difference. But do you know what really shifts everything? Your identity. You knew it was coming. Here it is. It's your identity and what you believe about yourself. So here's what happens when you're burned out. You don't just feel tired. You start believing things about yourself. That struggle grows from something that you're just simply dealing with to something that defines you and becomes your identity. And you'll know this is happening when you find yourself saying things like, I'm just not consistent. I always fall off. I know what to do, but I just don't do it. I can manage everything else, but I stink at taking care of myself. And so that narrative becomes who you think you are. And here's the problem with that. It's your brain. Remember that your brain loves to be right, and it loves to be right about you. So it will keep finding evidence to support the story you're telling yourself. And then you keep reinforcing those beliefs. It's a nasty, icky cycle. And this is why so many high-functioning, high-achieving women feel stuck. You have built an identity around being the reliable one, the strong one, the achiever, but you don't see yourself as someone who prioritizes her own well-being. You don't believe that you're the kind of person who follows through on self-care, so you don't. And then you prove yourself right. And so this is where the real shift begins. Not with another habit tracker and not with another meal plan. The real shift happens with a new question. Who do I want to be? Seriously, decide who you want to be. Who is the version of you that feels focused and empowered? Who is the version of you that takes care of her body and her mind by eating, moving, and thinking in a way that makes her feel strong? What does this person think? How does she talk to herself? What are the choices that she makes? Not perfectly, but consistently. And to be clear, this is not about faking it. This is about practicing. So you take those questions and you decide who you want to be. And then you start showing up like that version of you, one small decision at a time. You start living into that identity even before it feels fully true. And here's the coolest thing about this. Every time you do that, every time you do something that aligns with who you want to be, like going for the walk or eating the lunch that you packed or going to bed instead of staying up late to work, you are reinforcing that identity. You're teaching your brain, hey, I am someone who follows through. I'm someone who takes care of herself. I am capable of self-care. And the more you reinforce that, again, not with perfection, but with practice, the more natural it will feel. So to spell this out, you're not chasing discipline. You're building a new self-concept, one that makes healthy actions feel automatic instead of a punishment, instead of one more thing to do. And you're doing it gently, and you're not beating yourself up about it when you mess up. So if you hear the self-talk in your head that's saying something like, I can't, or I'm just not that kind of person, I want you to question that. Because the real truth is, you can become anyone you decide to practice being, and that starts now. Okay? So now that we're starting to peel back some of these limiting beliefs, the ones that tell you you're not consistent or not motivated or not that kind of person, let's take it a step further. Because I hear these things from my clients all the time, and they feel so true. But remember, these are sentences that have been on repeat for years, that you have said to yourself enough times that you believe they're fact, but you can change them. So I want to offer you a couple of reframes. These are ways to catch your limiting beliefs when they come up, and then you can shift them to thoughts that are more supportive, to thoughts that actually help you take action. So let's talk through a couple of these. So first, instead of something like, I should be working out 5 days a week, because this one comes up all the time, let's pause here for just a second. This is most definitely a sneaky thought that sounds productive. It sounds like it's trying to motivate you, but really it's rooted in pressure and perfectionism. And when you don't hit those 5 days of workouts, what happens? You feel like a failure again. So instead, try this. What is the easiest way I can move my body today? So asking this question meets you where you are today, and it's flexible. It does not assume anything about your schedule or about your energy. It just looks for one thing that you can do to move today, even if it's small. And this is how you start to build consistency, by focusing on what is possible instead of what is the ideal. This is huge. Okay? So here is another one that comes up all the time. I need to start eating clean, or I need to start eating healthy again. So this one is totally loaded, right? It often comes laced with shame, all or nothing thinking, and a load of food rules. And more often than not, it leads to either going all in or giving up entirely. So instead, try this. What is one thing I can eat today that will help me feel better, physically or emotionally? So this might mean you pack some veggies with your lunch, or it might be that you carve out time for an actual meal where you sit down instead of eating bites of something over the sink. It might be that you add protein to your breakfast. And the idea of this reframe, again, is to find the smallest thing that you can do to be kind to your body. You're shifting from restriction to kindness, from punishment to care. And that will feel so much better than ripping yourself up for not eating 100% clean, organic, non-processed, vegan, whatever. And here's another one. I'm failing at self-care. So I hear this one often, and it hits hard because it's most often coming from women who are already doing so much and they still feel like it's not enough. And so here is the reframe I want to offer you. I want you to try this instead. Try, I'm doing the best I can with the energy I have. Because you are. And so some days, your best might be taking a walk and eating a real dinner. Other days, it might be brushing your teeth and going to bed early. And whatever it is, that's okay. Please remember that self-care is not a checklist. I know I give you lots of ideas of things that you can do to eat healthy and move more, but these are not meant to become tasks on your to-do list. Self-care is about meeting your needs. It's about meeting yourself where you are right now and responding to that. So some days it will look like thriving. Other days it will look like surviving, and both count. So these reframes, while they sound simple, don't discount them. They are powerful, but you have to practice them. And you have to believe them to be true for you, not just for your friend or for your coworker, but for you too. And here's what happens. This is the coolest part. Every time you replace pressure with curiosity or guilt with compassion, you give yourself permission to keep going. And that, not perfection, not intensity, but consistency and kindness, that is what creates the real lasting change. That is how you start to recover from burnout. So let me wrap this up by sharing this. You are not behind. You are not broken. And you are most definitely not lazy. You are likely doing too much in too many areas while expecting yourself to show up for your health and wellness with the same level of energy, strategy, and perfectionism that you bring to your job, your family, your people, your everything. But that doesn't work because you cannot hustle your way into feeling better. You cannot optimize your way out of depletion, okay? You care for yourself. You rest. You feed yourself. You talk kindly to yourself. That is how you feel better. And yes, you show up. But you do it from a place of support, not from a place of shame, okay? That is a big, big difference. Too many of you are so hard on yourselves, but this is your body and your soul that we're talking about, okay? This is not a promotion you're gunning for here. This is your own well-being we're talking about. Pushing harder and hustling will not cut it. So here is your permission slip. Lower the bar. Be kind to yourself. Let small be enough. Let drinking a glass of water count. Let a walk around the block count. Let saying no to something that drains you count. Because it does count, especially when you do it with intention. So please stop waiting until life calms down. Stop holding yourself to a version of healthy or disciplined that only exists on Instagram. And stop thinking that you have to do it all at once to be worthy of feeling good in your body and your life. Start small, start where you are, start messy, but just start. And if you want help with this, let's go. When you coach with me, we create a version of self-care that feels like relief instead of another job. Check out my website, send me a message at www.carriehollandmd.com/contact, and let's talk about how you can feel good again in your body, your routine, and in your mind. All right? Thank you again for hanging out with me, and I'll catch you again next week. Hey, if you want to build muscle but don't know where to start, I've got you covered. Head over to carriehollandmd.com/buildstrength and download my free guide to help you maximize your strength training. Inside, you'll find the essential exercises for building muscle, plus simple 1, 2, and 3-day workout plans that you can follow with just dumbbells and a bench. You'll also find strength training tips to help you train smarter and see real results. My goal is to help you get strong, and this strength training guide will help you do it. Go to carriehollandmd.com/buildstrength and check it out. Thank you for listening to the Strong is a Mindset podcast. If you want to learn more about how to build both a strong mind and a strong body by eating, moving, and most importantly, thinking, check out carriehollandmd.com.